Hey folks, Slick Slices here. Now I've always wanted a Finnish puukko knife, and one day I'll probably get a very traditional one, or maybe I'll get a Melanica puukko, which I really like the look of, although Melanica is actually Croatian, but nonetheless, there we are. In the meantime, I do have some Scandinavian knives. You may well have seen my Mora Knives Eldris. It's not the most exciting of Scandinavian knives, but it is Swedish. Now here today, we're going to look at a couple of Norwegian knives from a company called Helle. Now, they are a family-owned company that was started in 1932, and each of the knives comes in a little cardboard tube, and it comes with a little booklet which tells you about the history, and also tells you about things like how to sharpen them, how to care for them, what they're made of, and all sorts of stuff like that. Although it's a bit vague, and they also come with a cloth, which is also quite nice. Now, if you go to the Finnish nomenclature, you'll find that there's a thing called a puukko, which just means knife, but in effect it's a small knife, and a luku, which is the large knife, big knife. I think it just translates to large knife or big knife. So I have these two Helles. Now these are Norwegian, not Finnish, and they're not really traditionally puukko style, but we do have a kind of puukko size and a luku size knife. We'll look at that one at a time. Now, fortunately, because I have a bad memory, they do tell you what they're called on the blade, which is just as well, because I can't remember. Quite a nice sheath. I mean, not stunningly wonderful. No welting in the blade there, but I think they have a plastic lining so that you won't cut through them too easily. Now these are simple working knives. These are not. This is called the Egggen, E-G-G-E-N, and it says made in Norway, Helle, Norway. And I have no idea if you can read any of that for the shine. They're quite polished. They're quite a high polish. They're not, they're not Rockstead mirror polish, but they are a high polish, and they do come with a very sharp Scandi grind. Now they obviously tried to cut my finger off there. They have a thin rat tail tang, and they're peened at the top with a little brass rivet on it. This is birch wood. It's not the best figured birch wood in the world, but it's perfectly good. Now, they do tell you that these knives are to be used. They're not a great sort of CNC design company. They've been making knives in the same factory since 1932 in a place called I knew I was going to get it wrong. Holmdal in Norway. So it's a family company. I think they're third generation, something like that. And they just turn out knives that work. They do quite a range of models, but they're in many ways similar. It's just the sort of size really, and the quality. I mean, this is clearly, it's just a working knife. Straightforward, relatively budget. There's no fancy bits of material, antler or anything in the handles. This is just a straightforward, take it to work, use it, knife. They do have a triple laminated steel blade, and you can see the difference in the steel in the halfway down the Scandi grind. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it is, you've got a softer steel on the outside, harder steel in the middle, and soft steel on the outside. So that's, it's like the Japanese sanmai tradition, very similar sort of idea. You've got this sort of protective, tough, but more flexible steel, and then in the core, you've got this hard, wear-resistant, but brittle steel. Being a Scandi, of course, are relatively easy to sharpen. You just put that whole flat edge onto the stone and sharpen it. So that is the Egggen. Now this one, again, I got to do it without cutting myself. Got the camera over at the same time. This is much bigger. This is called the... Oh yeah, I've forgotten this. Jgermeister. Not quite Jgermeister, but very similar. And as you can see, it's basically a bigger version of the same. Comes with a different, more Finnish style sheath. It doesn't quite have the fishtail at the end, but it's very close to it. Again, it's got a plastic liner inside, but it's stitched up the back like a traditional Finnish scabbard, although the sort of low-hanging dangler type belt loop is riveted on rather than the traditional twisted bit of leather. But as I say, it's bigger. There is one significant difference other than the size and the weight, and that's that this one has a brass cap here, which I quite like. I think of the two, you know, the better looking knife is without a doubt the Jgermeister. Can't believe I forgot the name of it, but I had forgotten the name. But again, it's the birch. It's supposed to be curly birch. There's a bit of figuring in this side actually, which is quite nice. This one looks less like staining rather than figuring. You know, you've got the grain of the wood, but it looks like it's just been stained with something. It isn't. I think it's natural, but you know, this one does at least have some birch figuring in it. The 3mm steel. Again, it's their I want to call it sanmai. It's not sanmai because it's not Japanese, but it's effectively the same thing. It's laminated. That's the word. Laminated steel. I like these. I mean, if you wanted if you were going to buy a Mora, but you wanted something that was just looked a bit better, looked a bit nicer, then these would be great. Because I think they're probably the steel is probably a step up from most of the Moras, but not a massive leap. But this larger one also has a very slightly larger handle, which fits really well in my hand. And I like the brass and this sort of black or dark brown line between the brass and the wood. Really, really nice. And these are not expensive knives. These are knives that are made to be bought, used, work hard. They do have a lifetime guarantee, which is quite nice. You know, they'll always repair or replace for your lifetime. So I think that makes them an exceptionally good buy, because they're not as cheap as a 10 quid Mora, but they're not expensive, fancy show knives. These are good work knives, and unlike usually a puko has a barrel. I don't have one to show you, so well I do, but it's not typical. They have a sort of barrel shaped handle. I quite like this bit here, because it does stop your hand sliding onto the blade, which is, to me, seems quite important, because these are scary sharp. I mean, they really do come sharp, which is not always the case with every knife that I've got. But these ones are made by people that use knives, and it shows. You know, it shows that these are people that know what a knife should do, and that these knives will do it. I should probably tell you how big they are, because it is sort of difficult to get some perspective on when you're seeing a knife on camera. We're talking about just shy of 4 inches. If you measure it from the front of the handle, it is 4 inches, but obviously this is curved. Overall, is that 8 3/8 of an inch, something like that. This one obviously is much bigger. Big boy. Oops. Let me get this on camera. Too much junk on my desk. Oh, that sounds nice. This one is a 5 3/8 inch blade, and an overall length of about 10 inches dead, I would have said. So it's just quite a chunk of a knife. I mean, in the UK, you can't carry a sheath knife unless you're going camping or, you know, you're bushcrafting or whatever your thing is, or it's something you need for work. So you wouldn't carry one of these as an everyday piece. So it doesn't really matter whether it's what the length is. But this is, to me, this is a much more usable knife in my hands. But there's nothing wrong with this one. It's a good worker too. And funnily enough, they're about the same price. I don't really understand where the logic of that comes in, because this does look more expensive, but it isn't. There we are. Right, well, thank you very much. There will be more of these, and if you want to see them, please remember to subscribe and ring the bell, and perhaps you could give this a like. Costs you nothing, but it helps the channel. Thank you very much. Bye.